Good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Utsman, and I'm a professional medium and psychic. And I've had the great honor to work professionally now for about 14 years, connecting with people with their loved ones. So I get to work internationally and globally. Tonight, we're here to talk about pregnancies that don't come to fruition. And, this is it's a sensitive topic. It is one that comes up in readings regularly. And so I decided I wanted to talk about it tonight. And I can only share things from my experience and my perspective. I'm not here to change anyone's minds. This is not meant in any way, shape, or form to be a religious or political discussion. So I just wanted to say that up front. Again, this is based purely on my experience and understanding of being able to work as a medium for 14 years now. So we're going to speak about various forms that pregnancies don't come to fruition. And I will share a couple of stories from those that I've been told from within the spirit world, as well as some stories from my guides as well. And then we'll move to Q&A. I am sure there isn't a single person on this planet that hasn't experienced, known of, had somebody in their family have a pregnancy not come to fruition in one way, shape, or form. So we're talking about miscarriages, abortions, and stillborns. And I also decided to add just a little touch on those little babies that perhaps lasted for a few hours or just that first week. And the reason I decided to add that in as well, because it's in a way, it's almost tied to a stillborn, we're right there and we don't come to fruition. So let me just start with what I have come to understand first and foremost from the spirit world as a whole. And that is, regardless of why a pregnancy does not come to fruition, let's just say there's a miscarriage or an abortion. In those two particular cases, there is no judgment. There is no judgment. I have heard this time and time again. And that's important to hear because we blame ourselves and we carry these things. These are, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, these are times of great joy and excitement. We're pregnant, there's a baby coming. Other times, maybe it, regardless, how we maybe got pregnant, maybe it's not an ideal time. There can be so many ways that we get pregnant that's not an ideal time. And I don't specifically want to go down those topics, but the point is, in my experience, in my understanding, in my connection with the spirit world, not only guides, but little souls that didn't come, and family members with those souls, that there is no judgment. So this, these things can happen for so many reasons. It's really, some people don't have access to proper medical care. They're going to blame themselves, right? Some people have done every single thing they can absolutely possibly have done to take care of themselves, to make the ideal situation, and they still may have a miscarriage. Some people are under great deals of stress. Stress small levels of stress, great levels of stress, and there's a miscarry. And then they think to themselves, because I hear these stories, they think to themselves, well, I wasn't looking out for myself, or it was the stress that caused it. We can spend days probably speaking about the various ways that not only do we get pregnant. I mean, I know the basic birds and the bees, everyone. Okay, I'm not talking about that, but there's traumatic ways. There's contraception that does not work. There's just lists. There's all kinds of ways that perhaps a pregnancy is started and then there is an end. So first, I'm going to speak about miscarriages and abortions in the same way. Okay. And for the reason for this is because I'm always shown it the same way from those in the spirit world. And that is usually a loved one holding a young soul in this manner. And that's how I know that they have a pregnancy. There's been a pregnancy in the family that has not come, regardless of the way, So, and that's how that is shown. And again, there's no judgment, but what I want you to know is, here are some of the reasons I've heard in both instances. Timing is the number one thing I have heard from both scenarios. It wasn't a good time. Sometimes we may think, how can that be? How can it not be a good time when we have planned everything? We have the nursery set up and we have everything ideally set up, right? And that soul says, no, not quite the right time yet. And we might think to ourselves, how can that be? How can that not be the right time? Only when I ask that little soul, tell me more about that timing, if you wouldn't mind, please, so you can help us understand here, frankly. And sometimes it comes down to somebody's been really stressed at a job, or there's being a job change and a move change at the same time. Life can change instantaneously. Maybe there's a stress going on with one of your parents or something. So it can be that where they say not the right timing and they just decide not now. Okay. Is that your fault? If you decide it's not a right timing for you, or the soul decides, no, not quite a right timing for me, that is not yours to carry. And again, they're doing well. They always speak so matter of fact from the spirit world. I always find that so interesting, that people in the spirit world, and I'm going to include these souls because they are people, right? I'm going to include them as well. I've had some say that there was an attachment problem. Now, I didn't know what that meant at first. So in a case of a miscarriage here, there was an attachment problem. That meant that the person's physical body was going to deal with a physical, like literally, I think it's like a placenta attachment issue. And that was going to cause extra problems throughout the pregnancy and safety of the mother. So the soul decided not to come. There has been instances where people have chosen not to complete a pregnancy, and the soul says, thank you. That would not have been a good father for me. So imagine. So I would like for you, if you can, to kind of think of it this way. All of the horrible thoughts that sometimes you may have, or all of the ways that you may think that I didn't do things right, or you're feeling regret, or you're feeling there's failure to your body that if you've had multiple instances of miscarries and that you feel like your body is a failure, I'm going to say to that, what I've heard is the body is not the failure. It's another avenue that may have been intended. And this is sometimes where people choose to adopt. Now, I'm not saying that should be the thing. I had a client that had several miscarries, several, and they had, the woman had, because I saw in the reading, I said, you almost died last year, not knowing the cause. And in this instance, she actually had an ectopic pregnancy. She'd already had 3 miscarries. This one had gone the longest, or this one was seemingly the healthiest start that she had had, but then it was an ectopic pregnancy. And it got so bad that she almost died, because those are very dangerous, as many of you may know, and she lost that ovary. So now here is the situation that you have somebody who has had 3 with no understanding of a medical reason. It could not find a medical reason why these pregnancies were not coming to fruition. I'm getting goosebumps now as I'm remembering this, because it's such a story. And I heard from my guide, they're going to try again. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm not sure I would be brave enough to try again after that. And I heard already have. And I said to her, I'm hearing this. Is it correct? Are you actually pregnant now? And the answer was yes. And as a medium, you never want to really predict when somebody is going to transition or if something is going to come to fruition, because life has so many pathways that it can go. But I felt really good about this one. And I told them, I said, you know me now, we've had several readings. And I said, and I've never predicted one way or another on any of the other pregnancies. I said, but this one feels different. And sure enough, they now have a healthy baby who they just sent me a photograph, who is now a year old. So that was quite the story. Now, she asked, what do you think about me doing it again? And then in that instance, I can't tell people what to do. That is not the role of a medium or a psychic, is to tell you what to do. What I did share with her was I felt another caution. And she said, okay, that was helping us to decide, should we adopt another or not? Adopt or try again. That was their choice, right? It's always your choice. You have free will. But if there's anything I want any of you to take away before I go on to what the other stories are, is please try not to blame yourself. Please try not to stick to a hard timeline on, well, it's, my friends got pregnant in 2 months and it's taken me 12. There might be a reason that you may not be aware of, that maybe none of us are aware of. So timing is a very interesting thing. The spirit world views it as, hey, it's just timing on your path. We view it as, hey, we've got certain times, that we need and want to get things done in. So if it's anything like that, is to try and relax the burden, the guilt, all of those things that come with it. Okay? Because there are things that are much greater than us, plans working in the spirit world that we may not understand. Plain and simple. Now, when it comes to stillborn, and when it also comes to those very early passings of babies, like I'm talking about the NICU here, those that just go so soon, they've made it or almost made it. I've had conversations with them as well. I've had more conversations of those that made it, but transitioned shortly or within the process of that NICU, which is often 4 months long, right? Can be a very long process in the NICU to help them and to help them reach to where they can go home or where everybody's ready to go home. Haven't had that many experiences with the stillborn, but I will say the commonality between the two is this, that there was the soul knew it was going to come, and it knew as part of its plan that it was not intended to be here long, but it did it anyway in order to teach, to leave a lesson behind. Not so much always for the families, but for the medical community. Now, does that make you feel any better about why did my baby choose to be one of those to leave lessons behind for the medical community? No, it may not ease your grief at all, or maybe it will. Maybe you can look at them and think, wow, what a sacrifice you made. I'm proud of you for it. And I still miss you. That's okay. People in the spirit world understand when we grieve them, and they're okay with it. They want us to be happy. They want us to know that they continue on. And this goes for these little souls as well. And any kind of physical issue that they had while they were here does not carry to the spirit world. In communication with what would be little souls here, sometimes I see them quite a bit older because we're talking to the soul. We're talking to the soul of these beings. And those that were stillborn, the things that come out of those situations, and I've only had a few of those, but it doesn't make it any less, none of these is more or less traumatic. You're not to compare yourself with anybody else. Please don't do that. Your trauma is your trauma. Your grief is your grief. No one can walk in your shoes. Therefore, we cannot compare ourselves to, well, my stress is greater than your stress, or my loss is greater than your loss. No one can walk in your shoes. So what you experience through your feelings, feel them, honor them, know that your loved ones are surrounding you, whether you feel them or not. And the few stories I've heard with those in the stillborn experience has always been the same. It didn't matter if it happened in the hospital at time of delivery, or if it happened at home when somebody decided on a home birth, or on the way to the hospital, or all the different kinds of ways and places that this can happen. We were on a farm and we couldn't get somewhere, or the ambulance couldn't get here fast enough, or whatever the reasoning is. The story, the answer has always been the same. And the answer may not be satisfying, but the answer is this: I wasn't going to make it no matter what. I was not going to make it no matter what. Or everything was done for me that could be done for me. In a lot of these instances, the commonality has also been an unknown or unforeseen physical issue, whether it be a genetic one or an oxygen type scenario with the brain. And they did not want to come in with that, or their plan was, because a lot of those situations I believe are investigated, right? And so in those situations, again, they're teaching. Stillborns are teaching. You have to, let's think about all of the people involved in the medical field and what it takes, you know, what one physician may learn and now then teach a whole bunch of other upcoming physicians about an instance. We don't know. We don't know the ripple effect that these choices, these young little souls choose to do. We don't know that ripple effect, because once we step out of it, you know, we do what we can to move on. They know that they tell me, do you know that they celebrate my birthday? They tell me this. Do you know that sometimes they celebrate my birthday individually and they don't talk about it as a family? I don't know why they don't talk about it as a family, because it was going to be my birthday. They want us to talk about them. I say this: the spirit world often wants something that makes us feel a little bit uncomfortable. So if we want to speak about it, speak about it. But they are listening and they are a part of your lives. You know, they can come and visit dreams. They may look a little older. I've had some of the kids tell me that, oh yeah, my mommy saw somebody that looked just like what she thought I would look like as I got a little bit older. And sure enough, the answer from the parent is, how could you know that? Well, that's what they're telling me, because they're a part of your life. So they're not gone from you. We stay connected and you will be reunited with them when it's time for your transition. I know that some have chosen to say, well, I didn't do it this time, but I'm going to come back. I'm going to come into the next one. So when somebody goes to get pregnant, I don't always share that, but if it feels right and they want me to share that, I will share that. Yeah, tell them I'm going to come. Okay. Well, when somebody decides they want to get pregnant again, then they may come. So I know I've talked a lot, and I've talked a little bit longer than I usually do, because my goal is always to be able to answer as many questions as I possibly can. But I just want to touch on one last piece, and it's this. Again, I think it is critically important that, as hard as you may try, to please try not to compare yourself to others, because you think, maybe I did every single thing I possibly could, and over there is somebody that has a substance issue and their baby came. Why? We may not know the answer to that till much later on, but if our paths don't stay connected, we may never know the answer to that, right? So it's important that we don't compare. Every soul has its own journey. Every soul chooses that journey prior to making its way towards stepping into the physical world. And notice I say stepping towards, because if they decide that we may not want to, that's not quite the right thing, they may not come. All right. Even within your own family, we each have our own soul's path and journey. So I love to think about these kids and honor them deeply and really respect their difficult choices that they make for the sake of the medical profession, knowing that it's going to be painful for their family. And at the same time, they usually tell me, but my family is strong enough to handle it, even if they don't know it now. So that's what I have to say on this here. And at this point, I know I've spoken a long time, but I would love to take any questions and do my best to answer them for you. Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nancy Scheel. If you don't know me, I am Amy's partner in life and in work. And I've been a personal and professional coach for a long time and recently specializing on working with mediums. So what I do on these webinars is read the questions and pass them along to Amy. So we have a couple questions, and since tonight is such a small group, I'm actually also going to read a couple of the comments. I'm not going to share names, but just for folks who may either didn't see the comments or for people who might be watching this, watching this recording later. So first, let me actually just share a couple of those comments. So one person says, my first loss was so difficult to go through, blaming my own body. So what you were sharing about that was made a lot of sense. And the same person dreamed of a little boy with Down syndrome running through a field after her first loss, and she has since had 2 girls. So very much in sync with some of the things that you've been told, Amy, in your professional experience.
Powerful.
Yeah. And by the way, up to this point, I don't know how many times I wiped my eyes, so I'm just going to apologize up front if I get teary. It just
that comment made me very emotional, because we don't always get answers or visit dreams, and you did. And I think it's important that we do not underestimate the power of those in the spirit world.
Oh, don't start. Now you're going to make me cry. We can't all be crying.
We can't all be crying, but I'm emotional because I'm just deeply touched that you got to experience the power of what they can do in the spirit world. So it's very rare you're going to see me get this emotional after so many years. I mean, I deal with difficult topics on a regular basis, but thank you for whoever commented and sharing that story, because that is a powerful story. And there are a lot of people that registered for this webinar who are unable to attend, and they're going to receive a copy. And we also put these on YouTube, is why we don't mention names. And so you have no idea how many people that story just touched. So when we talk about the ripple effect, we may not even know to the extent our conversation that we're having here. So yes, that one got me good, and it's partly because I know the power of the spirit world. I'm familiar with it, but it is so deeply touching when somebody else gets to experience it in that manner, and I'm extraordinarily happy for you. And thank you for sharing that story. So we will go on.
All right, Amy, so hold yourself together, because I want to read one more comment. This is from a different person.
Okay.
I was told my son had more spiritual work to do, and that he was grateful for our decision to end the pregnancy. I love everything you're saying.
Thank you for that. And yes, that comes down to timing, and I have no reason to doubt that statement. So no reason to doubt that statement whatsoever. And again, thank you for being brave and sharing that. I actually hope you found, when you learned that, when you were told that, that you found that helpful. I really do. So,
And somebody just wrote in that they're in tears too. So we have good company here.
I mean,
All right. So
we should have had wine or something for these stories.
I'm pretty sure that you answered this first question from Anonymous, but just to make sure. If you have a miscarry or abortion, can the same soul come back later as your child just born later? And I think you said yes.
Yes, yes, they can. And I feel comfortable saying that because I've heard a few of them say that. So I believe what they tell me. I'm educated, and I'm educated by them. I trust what people in the spirit world tell me because they have no reason to not tell the truth. My role is not, and any medium's role is not to share things just to make you feel better in the moment, but to be their voice. And so it's extraordinary what they share. And so, and yes, they can, I saw something about a gender. They can change gender. I think I saw a comment coming in there as well.
Right. If they don't have to be the same gender.
No, they don't.
Yeah. And I want to call attention to the distinction. They can come. We're not saying they will come.
Correct.
They can come.
Yeah, because I had a woman recently in the spirit world holding two. And I said, oh, I see that you've had 2 pregnancies not come. And then she took the motion of one and put her hands this way. When they put their hands this way, this is just how it works for me. I say, I see there's plans for another baby to come. And so what this grandmother was telling me was, one is staying and one of these will be coming. So,
Great.
yeah.
Okay, Amy, this is from Sarah. Do you have any tips for asking for and listening for visits in dream or meditation? I ask spirit all the time before going to bed, but I am not receiving or hearing it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say this first off. Not all of us gets visit dreams. So it's extraordinary if or when we do. Some people get them all the time, and some people have never had one. I know we've done a webinar on asking for signs, receiving signs. The key is, and I'm going to say this, everyone, is not to set a specific expectation, but to ask them to give you a sign in the way that you will understand it's from them. That is a key phrasing. Could you please provide a sign in a way that I will understand it's from you? Because we get signs and we miss them. I mean, this happens to me every now and then. I feel like somebody just went bam and hit me over the head with a 2x4 by saying, like, what will it take for you to listen to me right now? So this even happens in my own family, believe it or not. So just to ask them in a way that you will understand it is from them. It is through repetitiveness that you will understand who is providing the sign. When you get a sign and you don't know, you're not sure who it's from, ask in your mind, who sent this sign, please? Whoever pops into mind first will be the one. And always, please thank them, because it takes quite some work for them to get signs to us. So I always thank them for that.
Okay. Jennifer asks, I know this is not a political or religious discussion. So with that characterization, is there any input from the spirit world as to how far along the spirit is attached to the pregnancy?
So I've had it couple of different ways. So that one is a difficult one to answer, if I'm going to be honest. I can only answer from what, I know. Some have told me, and I would feel like this would be the most common thing I've heard from them, when asked this question. I haven't been asked this question specifically this way, but I've been told by some children, like, I see the child there and I know the woman is pregnant, and what I get, but I'm seeing the child older, 4 or 5 years old, obviously we don't give birth to a 4 or 5-year-old, but what they have said is, oh, I'm jumping in and out. I'm jumping in and out. And so I liken it to the similarity of when somebody has some form of cognitive issue, where they're not always clear that sometimes the soul is in and sometimes the soul is out. So they're like, oh, I'm a little bit in, sometimes I'm in and out. So I can't say that there's a hard and fast rule that at, the moment of conception, or 6 weeks or 15 weeks or 24 weeks or 38 weeks, where that soul, maybe that soul is still taking a little bit of respite in the spirit world, for all we know, while you think it's sleeping, and then when it's kicking and giving you kicks in the belly, it might be in. So I can't 100% answer that, but that is one thing that has been given to me in that way, is they hop in and out.
Okay, great. So I have 2 questions from 2 different people. They're somewhat personal in nature, but I'm going to go ahead and read them. I'm not going to mention the names, but they'll know who they are. In particular, I'm going to say that one of them is an individual that you know. So I want to be careful in terms of just protecting confidentiality and not disclosing stuff here. And normally we don't talk about personal situations, but in this case, because we have a small group and we don't have other general questions, I'm going to go ahead and read these to you. So this first one, somebody with their first name begins with letter M. I have one child, a son, but every once in a long while, I dream of a little girl at different ages. I don't know if I may have experienced a very early miscarriage. Is this just her way of making her presence known? It's too late for me now to get pregnant again, but I do remember how much love I felt in the dreams I've had of her.
Oh my goodness, that's so sweet. So yeah, some people do have a miscarriage and are not aware of it very early. At different ages, am I understanding this correctly? And the little girl has presented herself at different ages?
Yes. Yes, every once in a long while, I dream
Yeah,
of a little girl at different ages.
I would have to know, and if they could please type this part in, I would have to know if it was an age progression when they say different
1,
ages.
then 3, then 8, then
Yeah, is it an age progression thing? It wouldn't have to match chronological age in this, what we would say in this lifetime, but it would have to be an age progression. Yes, okay. So the answer to that is, I would probably go with yes, that would have been a miscarriage may not have known of.
okay. Okay, and this is from a person whose first name begins with the letter J.
Okay.
I chose an abortion 21 years ago because I thought it was not the right time to take care of a child.
Mhm.
5 years later, I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, and I was so happy about that. I am so happy about that. So sadly, my son, that boy, took his own life at age 16. Now I am wondering if my son is the same soul who came back, but then decided to leave early, and why would that happen?
Okay, so That's an extraordinarily difficult situation. And if you're not familiar with helping parents heal, you may want to join that group. So I'm really sorry about your son taking his life. Dying by suicide is tough, right? So Helping Parents Heal is an amazing organization that can assist there. I can't answer that here, and here's why. I can only answer that, and it's not like I'm asking you to sign up for reading. Please don't. We don't sell on here, but I would have to hear it from him, or should the other pregnancy connect, I would have to hear it direct from what they say. So, yeah.
As to the reasons why.
Yes, and that would be the only way, whether it's me or another medium or such, we'd have to be able to ask your son, or if another family member were present or even a guide, they would be able to help with that. But without that kind of direct connection, in this case, that is not something I can answer, unfortunately. My deepest thoughts to you and your family regarding your son.
Yeah. Yeah. So it looks like those are our questions and comments tonight. And I want to thank, I mean, not just you, Amy, for, like I said, you had me in tears too many times, but I want to thank everybody who is on this call tonight, for holding such beautiful space for each other. Whether you asked a question or put something in, put a comment, or you didn't, you were still present, and I very much felt the energy going back and forth among folks.
So I actually have a closeout here that I'd like to do. Well, actually, I can't take full credit, but I'll just be the voice. Okay. From one of my guides, and I hope you find some peace and comfort in it. And thank you for being brave enough to share your stories and ask your questions. As Nancy already said, holding space for one another. And I could really feel the love and support. And some of you even took a deep breath. So don't think I don't feel these things, even though I'm a distance away. But my guide would like to close this out for you. So we're going to let my guide do it. And then we will end the Zoom from there. Okay. So from me, Amy, thank you very much.
I'm going to close my video and let you finish. So.
Okay. All right, this is coming again from the spirit, directly from a guide of mine from the spirit world. All right, and it goes like this. Each person in the physical world faces some form of suffering in one way or another. Some of you may feel as though you suffer greater than others. Some of you may feel that you will never get an answer to what this suffering is about. Some of you wonder, does it matter? Is it worth it? Why? Some of you feel the depth of your suffering through what feels as though it pierces your soul. Your soul cannot be broken. Your soul is your strength. And while each person faces some form of suffering in this physical world, in the spirit world, we call those steps of lessons. We call those spaces for the soul to continue its growth. Let us remind you that we know these steps are not easy. For most of us have also lived in the physical world at one time or another. We know and remember how that suffering can be. And this is why we choose to be guides, to be in support, and walk along each one of you. Each one of you has a guide that walks beside you. When you feel that you are at your deepest, darkest, and lowest moments, understand this. We have pulled together a team to support and surround you. You may not feel us, you may not be aware of us. And your family members pulled together to be in support. When you have those moments that you think, I can just not get up out of bed, even if you sat up in bed and didn't get up, it is a moment of an accomplishment. It is a step. If you lay right back down and go to sleep because the pain is too deep, it's not a failure, for you've already taken a step. So let us remind you that as difficult as it may seem in the physical world, adjustments are made on a regular basis. Some of you will adjust without your children. Some of you will adjust without aspects of your physical body that cannot bear those children. Some of you make adjustments to how your physical body functions or does not function in the way that you would like. These are all steps for the purpose of the growth of the soul. And so let us please remind you and leave you with these parting words. You are never, ever alone. You are loved as you are, whether you may feel so or not. And we just ask that shall you need that extra help, all you must do is trust that we are there with you. Thank you.